Yes, our no, next question. We are going to look at how glucose is regulated in our body. Remember, glucose is very important for our daily activities. It gives us the energy that we carry out or what we are doing. Presently, what I'm doing, I'm using glucose. So, we have normal range, which range from 60 to 140 milligram per deciliter. Now, this normal glucose level range, if your glucose fall below this 60, then you are experiencing hypoglycemia. But when it goes higher, that is above 140 milligram per deciliter, then you are having hyperglycemia, which is the same thing as what? Diabetes. So now pay attention because this is going to be fun. After you have eaten your food, the food will metabolize, catabolize, then release glucose. Then you will now have high glucose level in your blood. Now, this high glucose level in your blood will now be what? Will be detected by receptors. Then it will now stimulate the release of insulin. From pancreas, which is called alpha beta cells. Now the insulin will now promote the use of the glucose by what is known as the cells. Cells now what? Make use of the glucose. We have liver cells, striated muscle cells, and so on and so forth. Now these cells will make use of the what? The glucose. And when there is still enough glucose, the excess glucose will be converted to glycogen. So carbohydrate is stored in animal as glycogen, and that is what just happened here, and is stimulated by insulin. So insulin will tell the cells to use the glucose, and when they fail to use all the glucose, then it will now trigger the cells of this to store glucose as glycogen in the liver cells and other part of the body. So now, this conversion of glucose to glycogen is known as glycogenesis. Now, then your blood level returns to what? Normal, because there's no excess glucose and there's no low glucose in your blood. The second one is when you have low glucose level now, because the first one, the glucose level is high. Now this one now, when the glucose level is low, then it's detected by glucagon, and this one is also a pancreas hormone and is the alpha cells. So when there is low blood glucose in your blood, then glucagon will be released. And now when this glucagon is released, it's going straight to the liver. It now tells the cells that, please, that carbohydrate that is in store, people are in need of it. So please bring it back so that people can use. So this now stimulates the breaking down of what? Glycogen to glucose. the glycogen that is stored here, glucagon will stimulate the cells to release the what glycogen, which is will break down into what glucose and release into the what bloodstream in order to be used. That is when you have not eaten, but you still have energy. You just imagine how and why. This is the reason. The reason is because you have energy in store, and that energy is being used and is stimulated by what glucagon. Then, when this glycogen is being converted to glucose, this process is known as glycogenolysis. So now, it breaks down what? The glycogen. Then, your cells will now have normal glucose level. Why? Because it was low and now detected by what? Glucagon. And glucagon stimulates the what? Breaking down of glycogen, which is the storage or store form of what? Carbohydrate. Then converts to what? Glucose. Cells cannot use glycogen. Cell can only use what? Glucose. That is why this one has to be what? Converted or break down to what? Glucose. But there is a certain time in life, or yeah, when you have not eaten for long and you are what? And you have undergone, let's say, a strenuous exercise. Time will reach that you become completely weak. Even the glycogen that you have stored must have finished, and you left with no any other carbohydrate in your body. That means your carbohydrate is depleted. Now, when it is depleted, then you become very weak. That is why some of us, when you are undergoing, let's say, strenuous exercise for a very long time, at times you fall, because the energy is you have what? Gone. The carbohydrate you have gone. So now, what next? The little energy that you will be having now, the hypothalamus now will now detect that, yes, we have low level of glucose in the blood and glycogen is not available. So what do we do? So now, what next happen is that hypothalamus will now what? Release some various hormones, like adrenal hormones. These hormones will now trigger, this hormone will now triggers, let's say, adrenal hormone. Now, this hormone now will stimulate other cells to what? Make use of protein in form of amino acid and glycerol. So this will stimulate the conversion of amino acid and glycerol to what? Glucose. So, since we don't have glucose in the blood, glycogen is not available. Now we don't have any other alternatives but thank to what? Hypothalamus, which stimulates the release of what? Adrenal hormone. And this hormone, we have other various hormone that can trigger this. Then you now what? Trigger the conversion of what? Amino acid. Imagine proteins even turns to what? Carbohydrate. Glycerol, which is what? Fat, also what? Turns to what? Carbohydrate, in order to support us to continue with life. So this conversion, this process is known as gluconeogenesis. It's known as what? Glucose neogenesis, which then converts this amino acid, which is the building block of what? Proteins, and also what? Glycerol, from what? Fat to what? Glucose. Then cells now take the what? Glucose. Then now have what? Normal blood glucose level. So you see, the way glucose is regulated in our body is something unique and interesting. Thank you for watching. If you have any question, please just drop it in the comment box. And thank you, thank you, thank you. See you next time.